Hi, LeBear's Casino. Ronnie Rance here with you. Tommy Chrysan over in God's country at Court Street Cafe in Port Allen. TK will be having some great breakfast over there and lunch. Tell you all about it in a little bit. Also, coming up today on Sports Source Daily, we're going to get into the LSU coaching carousel that's happened over the last couple days since we were with you on Monday. Some coaches in, some coaches out. We'll have some thoughts on great Frank Wilson coming back. That's big. That's giant. Corey Raymond leaving, that's bad, and everything in between. Saints are favored. Can you believe that they're favored? How bad are the Jets? The Saints are a 5-point favorite on the road. That's got to be the stinker game of the day in the NFL. Who's going to play quarterback at LSU? I don't know if Alan Risher's got any more eligibility left, but the Saints, but LSU needs to maybe find somebody who maybe left school early because I don't know who's going to play quarterback. And you know, Matt Moscona brought this up on his show yesterday, Tommy, as I bring you in from Court Street Cafe. Will LSU even play a bowl game? Like, they're getting almost to that point where between eligibility, injuries, transfers, sit-outs that are going to come, you know, will they even have enough players? They had less than 60 scholarship players against A&M. I mean, if you start getting down into the mid-40s, do you even play a bowl game? That's an interesting something to look for.
What you got? I'm sorry, Ronnie. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, you know, Matt brought this up, and I don't know how much he was being serious or joking, but on his show yesterday. But you know, LSU's desperately getting to the point where they have a valid case to not even play this bowl game from a numbers standpoint. They had less than 60 scholarship players against A&M. You got other guys that are transferring. You got guys that are going to be injured. You got guys that are going to be ineligible due to academics at the end of the semester. You're going to have players that are going to opt to sit out. I mean, is Damone Clark going to even play in the bowl game? You know that you know, whether it's him or others, that they're liable to sit out for the draft. You might get to a point where you only have low 40s worth of players on scholarship eligible to play in this game with no quarterback. I mean, if Nussmeier doesn't want to burn a scholarship a year starting and playing in this bowl game, then what? So I'm wondering if LSU not even playing is not just funny radio conversation, if there's some validness to it.
Well, I don't know if that's truly an option. But, I mean, I guess if they call somebody up and say, look, we got 39 scholarship guys and 4 walk-ons, and, you know, I don't know. I think it's unprecedented where a team was committed to a bowl and then pulled out. We've had teams not go to a bowl. We know that story. But, you know, right now it's Max O'Dowd or Trevion Faulk, 2 walk-on non-scholarship quarterbacks are going to have to be back there. And, you know, you're right. Does Damone Clark play? I mean, the list goes on and on. And I know during the COVID thing, it was kind of like the NFL. If you didn't have 53 players and a certain amount in each position, you could, you know, cancel the game. And then, of course, this year they said it'd be a forfeit if you didn't play. And we didn't see, I don't think we had anybody cancel. Maybe Cal that one week did it out on the West Coast. But, you know, the point is it's a precarious situation. And, you know, Matt brings up a good point. And I don't know if, like, they can even do it. And is there, you know, it would have to be decided today or tomorrow, because then maybe you search for another team, even if it's not an SEC team, to say, hey, can you throw it together and go to a bowl game? I mean, it's tough, but I think LSU is going to play in that game, even if they only got 45, 50 guys dressed out. I would think that they got to show up and play contractually with the conference and the bowl game and all that.
Well, I definitely
bet Kansas State. That would be the line. That'd be the answer.
And now the Kansas State got taken off. The game got taken off the board initially when it came out that Max Johnson was in the transfer portal and not going to be playing in this game. Is it back up, Tommy?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's back up. LSU was a 2.5-point favorite when they first announced the bowl matchup. Then it started coming down to 1.5. Then it was a picket game. Now Kansas State's a point favorite. I looked shortly before we rolled tape here. You know, they're still on there. You can place a bet, and I'm sure out at LeBear's. I mean, we'll find out Saturday if it's still out there when we go to the LeBear's Sportsbook for the radio show Saturday morning. We'll find out, and we can relay that to people. But the couple of places I always look, and a place that I've been known to bet at, it's posted.
Yeah, I'm looking real quick to pick them actually on my my app that I look for lines. So yeah, I agree, Tommy. I don't know how you cannot take Kansas State in this game if you're a bettor, if you're a gambler. We don't know yet if Nussmeier is going to play.
My guess is no.
But right, my guess is no also because does he really want to burn a whole year for one game?
And this is what you got to think about, too. With the new coaching staff, I don't think he wants to burn a year. If this was a real good situation and all the coaches are coming back, then maybe you say, like Travis Daniel did years ago in the SEC championship game, you say, hey, I'll do this for the team. And then they might say, well, look, you'll be the number one guy going into fall camp, and you'll have the best opportunity to be the number one guy, compete. But with the situation as it is, I mean, I would think Garrett Nussmeier says, you know what? I'm not going to do that at this point, considering everything involved.
There's all kind of rumors going around about the Max Johnson situation. What do you think happened? Why did Max? Do you think this was something that regardless of the coaching change, Max Johnson was going to transfer?
I guess I don't know the answer to that. And I'm hearing a lot of things about what happened. And now they're talking he's going to go to Florida State, where his dad played. So, and they certainly could use a quarterback. So I don't know exactly what happened. Some people saying Brian Kelly cut him, told him, hey, best thing for you is the portal. I don't know that to be the case. And I don't think Brian Kelly would do that.
I don't think he would.
Huh?
It doesn't make any sense for him to cut him, knowing that he's in the situation he's in. Coaches, you want to let players leave on their own. Plenty of players are going to leave on their own through the portal. You don't need to cut people, unless they're bad apples.
What if he's there's some decent quarterbacks out there in the portal right now. They had a list of them the other day I read. Maybe Kelly's got an idea or a plan or a thought. Walker Howard, is he going to early enroll?
Yes.
Walker Howard. Okay, so he's going to be there for spring, and
Walker Howard's definitely a player he likes. I mean, Notre Dame was Walker Howard's kind of like second choice, it seems. And I get that, but Walker Howard hasn't ever taken a snap, and Max Johnson's played 2 seasons. I just don't believe the stories that, the rumor out there that he pulled him out of class and told him to leave, especially
I don't think that class is over, isn't it?
Well, especially
last week.
Especially because you're so hamstrung going into this bowl game. Would you really want to do that to your program that you just came to and say, look, we're just going to run Wildcat the whole time? I mean, that's what we're staring down.
Ronnie, maybe this could be a topic for another day to spend more time on. But the transfer portal, while there's a couple of good things and it's helped some people, I think it's bad for college football because, during the day I'll be looking at Twitter and like a lineman from Western Kentucky's going into the portal, a cornerback from South Carolina State going into the portal. I mean, I think it's sending athletes the wrong message, about work hard, wait your turn, whatever. I know I'm old school, but man, I don't know that it's been exactly what they wanted it to be.
I think the portal has a purpose, and I think also it's okay for certain times of the year. It shouldn't be a portal that's available 24/7. It's just like
that's a good point.
There should be a cooling off period, like the semester.
Or like we have a signing period, you could have a transfer portal period where May the 1st to May the 15th. If you're not happy with what happened in spring practice, whatever, you can get out. But to just do it and then people that have done it during the season affecting their different teams and their teammates, I mean, I don't know. But anyway, so we don't know what happened with Max Johnson. Maybe one day we find out. Somebody keeps bringing it up that just because you go in the portal doesn't mean you don't return. In other words, there have been people that went in the portal. Drew Bianco in baseball, went into the portal, then came back and ended up, being a key part of that baseball team at LSU. So there is the ability to go back. I'm not saying Max Johnson's doing that, but it has been mentioned on social media like, hey, guys, don't forget that.
The other thing Chance said is that the transfer portal will be huge this year. No question. I mean, they had the rules set up in place already to where you can sign 25 high school players and you can sign an additional 7 transfer portal players. So, they're going to sign 32 people this year. And although that rule is a step in the right direction, allowing 7 additional transfers outside of your 25 high school kids you sign, I think ideally, Tommy, the rule should be 1 for 1. If you've got a player that leaves, then you should be able to replace him. If you've got a scholarship, you had 85 scholarships, and you got all 85 of those scholarships handed out. If a player decides to enter the transfer portal, you should be able to go in the transfer portal to replace them. It should not be a situation where if all of a sudden you have a massive walkout, and look, LSU is always going to be a school that's going to have players leave early for the NFL, players that transfer because they're 4 stars and 5 stars. They're loved on by everybody. They come to college. Now they're not a dude for a year or two. They don't have the patience. They all of a sudden don't like it. What high school, what freshman in college anyway is a smooth transition? Most everybody, whether it's a regular student that's not an athlete, whether it's a baseball player or any other sport, it's always that first semester or two is tough in college. It's a tough thing to do. There's a lot of great baseball players that I played with at LSU that struggled their freshman year because it's just so different. And so I think when the NCAA gets to the point where 1 for 1, player leaves in the portal, boom, we can go replace them. I think that's going to be the right thing to do.
Because there's like 1,800 kids in the transfer portal now. You could make a conference out of that. Right. You could have the transfer portal group of 5 conference or whatever, and it might be able to win a game or two. But I don't know. There's a lot of unintended consequences, and of course, somebody said, well, LSU benefited by Joe Burrow. No, he was a graduate transfer, which has been a rule that's been around for a long time. It had nothing to do with the portal.
All right, so LSU, we know that we know that Polian, the strength and conditioning coach, special teams coach, is coming over. He was the special teams coordinator over at Notre Dame. He's now coming here to replace the LSU's special teams coach who retired. And then, of course, we know Davis, the O-line coach, is sticking around. He's the interim coach. He's going to stick around. I don't know anything about Davis as far as an offensive line coach, technician, as a teacher. I do know that he's a good recruiter, and that's a big part of this, the reason that he's staying. Mickey Joseph's a big get. He stepped down from McNeese, and he's going to be back. I mean, not Mickey Joseph, my goodness. Frank Wilson. Mickey Joseph is going to Nebraska. Frank Wilson has stepped down to McNeese, and he's back at LSU. This is a big get. He was here for a couple of years. He was with at Ole Miss. He's Mr. New Orleans on the West Bank and all that kind of stuff. He's Mr. New Orleans, so he's going to be a great recruiter, and that's what he's here to do is to recruit. He'll be a running backs coach or receivers coach or something on the offensive side of the ball. But Corey Raymond is gone, and that is big because when Coach O was let go and you knew a new coach was coming in, the 2 names that we assumed would be able to stay if they wanted to was Kevin Faulk and Corey Raymond, partly because they were players here and partly because they were such good assistants and from a recruiting standpoint were so valuable. But Corey Raymond is now going with Billy Napier to Florida, and he's going to be a thorn in LSU's side, no question about it, Tommy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if you're an LSU fan, Corey played here, he's done so well, but it's part of the business, and you don't know if maybe he didn't want to stay. Well, I don't know the answer to that, but I'm sure Billy Napier, quickly identified him as somebody who could help his Florida staff, and maybe Corey said, hey, it's time for a change. I don't know if he had any conversation with Brian Kelly or how deep that conversation might have went, but he's going to go be a part of the Florida Gators. And, Napier also brought in Jabbar Jalouk, who's a New Orleans native, to coach running backs who will be recruiting against Frank Wilson down in New Orleans. So, that's all part of it. It's part of the business. It would have been great if Corey could have stayed, and we still don't know what's up or not up with Kevin Faulk. But, when you get a coaching change, there's lots of changes that go with it. Tommy Moffitt's a great guy. He came to Calandro's and visited with us last week. He was buying some groceries. And it just didn't work the way, Brian Kelly wanted it to work. Brought his own guy in, a guy that used to play for him at Central Michigan, a guy that's been with him at Cincinnati and Notre Dame. So there's a familiarity there. So, it's just like recruiting, Ronnie. LSU's not going to get every kid from Louisiana. We can make a long list of Louisiana kids that went elsewhere. Well, you're not going to – the fans can't pick the coaching staff. Fans don't have any say in that, and that's just part of it.
I do think that for Corey, selfishly for his own career, this is a good thing, Tommy. And I like Corey as a person and know him a little bit. And so I would say that I think for him to expand his wings beyond LSU, sometimes you can get pigeonholed as, well, yeah, you're a good coach at LSU. This is a good thing. He's going to get to experience a different part of the country, coach a different, hear a different message, have to sell a different message. And the reality is, I think that'll be good for his growth as a coach and a recruiter and all that kind of stuff. And maybe, I think he's able to add a assistant head coach of defense or something like that. They're going to give him an extra title because remember, he still hasn't been a coordinator, and that's the big knock on him as far as moving, advancing his career beyond DB coach and recruiter. Which, by the way, nothing wrong with that. If you're at a big Power 5 conference, you can make a really nice living of $300,000 to $1 million a year as an assistant coach, recruiting coordinator, assistant coach, and he's going to make between $500,000 and $1 million at any SEC school, just not named Vanderbilt. So, I think that this is good for his career. Wouldn't be shocked, stunned, or amazed if one day he made his way back to Baton Rouge. Who knows? But for the meantime, for the short period of time, this one hurts because he was a beloved figure. Think of all the great DBs in the last basically about 8, 9, 10 years, and the recruiting he was instrumental. Now Kevin Faulk, I can tell you that Kevin Faulk was out recruiting just a few days ago. He was a touchdown high last week, and it was after the transition, and so. He's still doing his due diligence as if he's going to be sticking around, but we have not gotten word yet.
Yeah, we don't know that one yet. And I suspect, keep in mind the 15th is next week, the early signing period. Not saying he has to have a staff in place, but I'm sure there's some recruits who would really like to know who's going to be the offensive coordinator, who's going to be the defensive coordinator. And a guy that Kevin's maybe been recruiting. Hey, is the coach going to be a part of the staff? And so I think we got to get some answers by the 15th. Maybe not all of the answers, but I think we got to get some.
I'm not expecting that this early sign-in recruiting class is going to be a big splash recruiting class. I would think that they're going to get through it and they're going to do the best they can. But then they're going to be able to flip some people and do some good things between January and February. Because then you're going to have your whole staff in place, and now you're going to be able to have time to lean on some of these players and all that. So I would think you're going to not be overwhelmed, and you're obviously going to take a step down in your recruiting class for the early signing period. But I think you will have some surprises, some good things coming in February. That's just the nature of the business.
I agree with you. And here's the thing, Ronnie, this recruiting thing is like a 3-pronged animal now. You got to recruit the incoming high school kids. You got the transfer portal, and then you got to re-recruit guys on your roster that, to not, I mean, wow, you should have to have 2 recruiting coordinators, one for the high school kids and then the other one for all the college age kids, both on your roster and in the transfer portal. It's a lot of work, man, and you got to sift through it. Of course, other teams have needs, and they're addressing that. And it's just, recruiting's always been a vicious cycle. It's even more vicious now.
Let me ask you, as a football, if you were a football player, and Nussmeier got a start earlier, he played a few games off the bench. Would you, if you were him, would you burn a red shirt? Would you burn a whole year for a chance to start and play the entire bowl game on the 4th?
Wow, that's a tough one. That's a tough one to go. I'm trying to think as we're talking to you. You do it for the team if it makes the team better, but it's a bowl game that doesn't mean a whole lot. I don't know. I would think you hold off and save that year instead of playing Kansas State in the Texas Bowl. There's my answer.
I think it depends on the kid, right? Obviously, he's extremely talented. He's extremely confident in his own abilities. I'm sure in his mind, he didn't ever foresee himself staying in college 4 or 5 years. He thinks he's going to be 3 and go pro. So depends on what he believes in himself. In the past, when I say the past, I mean the old days 15 years ago, a lot of players would have burned a red shirt year. Heck, we've seen players burn a red
Travis
shirt, and they
Daniel
didn't
did
play at all and play in a bowl game, right? Out of necessity.
Travis Daniel, Nick Saban, he pulled the red shirt in the SEC championship game, I think, against Tennessee that year. And he had a big pick in that game, or a big play in the end zone, if I remember correctly. And, he did it for the team because they needed him in the secondary. And, and of course he had a little cup of coffee in the NFL, so he was a good football player. And I don't know where he is now, but, I guess that's a decision Nussmeier has to make. And I think that would be what the coaching staff tells him.
I personally would not burn a whole year, but a freshman in college who's full of testosterone, who's full of belief in himself, who's full of give me an opportunity, I can show you, I got a whole month to prepare. It's in Texas. He's from Texas. I could see him saying, give me the ball. I'm going to win us the game. I think as an older person who realizes, hey, nothing's guaranteed. And then, by the way, Joe Burrow at 23 years old was the first pick in the draft. So nobody's holding it against you if you can play quarterback because you stayed in college 4 or 5 years. That's not the case. So there's no – it's not like baseball where you get knocked for being an older prospect. Football, that's not the case. So I think that I would tell him not to, but I wouldn't be surprised if we hear he does.
Well, you're bringing up an interesting other side of the coin there. I mean, nowadays, if you have, one good year or one bang-up year or two, a good year then a great year, you're going to get drafted. Look at Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. Last year he had good numbers. This year he emerged big time, and he's one of the Heisman finalists. So you don't have to play for 3 years like Richard did or Hodgson did or anything like that to get your name going. If you're good enough, they're going to find you.
Yeah, you hear Nuss could gain teams respect if he's played. Phil says if Nuss wants to start next year at LSU, playing the bowl game gives him 15 practices as well as showing off in front of your new coaches.
Well, I think he could still practice, but he just wouldn't be with the number ones.
Yeah, but, he's not going to get a lot of snaps if he tells them, hey, I'm not going to play in the bowl game. Chance Babin, with all the coaching changes, going back to the conversation we had, with all the coaching changes nationwide, I think more kids might wait to sign in February. There's some value to that. Yeah, and you think of all the high-profile jobs that are out there, with the Notre Dame coaching change and with the Florida coaching change, Oklahoma, LSU, USC. Yeah, you're right. Maybe some players say, whoa, wait, let me take a step back and evaluate everything.
Well, and I mean,
Miami.
a guy that I think you met who came on the TV with Richard and I, Mark Whipple, he resigned at Pittsburgh. He's now the offensive coordinator in Nebraska. So that may, if you're a Nebraska recruit, you're like, whoa, we got this offensive guru guy coming in, who's got a Heisman Trophy finalist who we've worked with the last 2 years. By the way, too, because he's a friend and I talked to him, the coach at Nevada left for Colorado State, Jay Norville. Matt Mumme, Hal's son, wanted the Nevada head job, but the AD didn't pick him. He's actually going to follow Norville over to Colorado State. I swapped messages with Matt yesterday.
Also, some news: Dan Radakovich is expected. He's going to be named the AD over at Miami, and that's kind of been the worst kept secret for a few weeks. But,
well, we had that on Hold the Rope Radio last Sunday night because we had, he talked to Skip Bertman about it, so we knew.
Right. Mario Cristobal, the new football coach over at Miami, left Oregon. That's a big story. It's so funny when coaches leave. Like Oregon goes into Ohio State and beats them. Okay, but yet when he leaves, now granted he lost the Big 12 game, got stomped by Utah. But when he left to take the Miami job, all the message boards and everybody, good riddance. You could keep him, but yet he did a pretty good job for them. And now he's going to be going down to Miami. Of course, he's got ties to the Florida area, and Radakovich obviously is comes from Clemson, get a great job as AD there, learned from the legend Skip when he was time at LSU. So they're getting a brand new AD who's one of the top ADs in the country, and you're getting a hot coach that was on the list, the conversation for a lot of different schools. So I don't know if the U is back, but it's clearly making some strides in the right direction.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's going to be interesting, and I think that's a good point by Chance. That could be this early signing period might not be a big thing nationwide. We'll wait and see.
Also, Oklahoma is going to hire Ole Miss offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby. We know that what's his name? Your guy, the coach at Ole Miss. I'm drawing a blank.
Lane Kiffin.
Kiffin.
He runs the offense.
We know that Lane Kiffin
and
runs
Levy
the
went
offense
to
and called the
Oklahoma,
plays.
so, yeah.
But, Levy learned from him for a couple of years, and he's going to bring that system to Oklahoma and going to run the show over there. Let's talk a little NFL for a minute, Tommy. The Saints, believe it or not, are favored at the Jets. I don't know how that's the case. By the way, before we get to that, Chance Babin, who's related to Billy Napier, we got to get a Napier plug in here. Cristobal and Napier recruit in Florida should be fun to watch. No question about it. By the way, Florida recruiting has been dormant the last couple of years, but that's not going to be the case with Corey Raymond and Billy Napier over there, Jaloop and everything else. What's going on with the Saints? Why are they favored?
I don't know why they favored. That must mean the Jets are really, really bad. I haven't seen anything. Is Simeon going to quarterback? Maybe Ian Book.
No, they announced that Taysom Hill is going to be quarterbacking.
Oh, really? Okay, I was on it. Even with the finger thing, what are they going to do? Like the Patriots that only passed 3 times, maybe?
Hey,
huh?
I mean, why not?
Wow. But anyway, hey, the Saints, the NFL, everybody jockeying for playoff position, and hard to believe the Saints are a favorite by 5 points on the road, but maybe that just tells you how bad off the Jets really, really are. Going to be a fun weekend because you only got the Army-Navy college football game. There's a handful of other college games, and there's the FCS playoffs going on, but a lot of attention on the NFL and the Saints this week.
The market next year for quarterbacks in the NFL is going to be super, super competitive.
You see where Russell Wilson agreed to waive his no trade for 3 teams, including the Saints.
There you go, boy. That'd be big. Who are the other 2? Do you know?
Oh, I forget right at the moment, but I know the Saints are one of the 3.
That's big. As far as quarterbacks that are going to be kind of on that market next year, you got Jameis Winston, you got Teddy Bridgewater, of course. What's going to happen to Ben Roethlisberger? Is he going to retire?
Yeah, he's going to retire.
Sam Darnold in Carolina. I mean, you talk about from that White House to the outhouse really quickly. You got, people, backups like Ryan Fitzpatrick are out there, Tyrod Taylor. What's going to happen with Matt Ryan? What's going to happen with Jared Goff? I mean, is Matt Ryan going to retire? There's Mitch Trubisky's out there. Cam Newton's out there. Those are a lot of veteran quarterbacks that have had experience that are going to be on some rosters where they end up. But then, of course, then you got the superstars that won out. Seems like nobody's content. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, you mentioned it. Deshaun Watson's got to leave, right? If you're the Texans, Jimmy Garoppolo is somebody that was highly thought of. He's out. Kirk Cousins is a valuable. Drew Lock. So I mean, it is going to be carousel's big in college. The quarterback carousel is going to be gigantic in the offseason.
What if Jameis Winston rehabs his knee and he's ready to play?
By the way, I forgot about here's why the line is what it. Kamara is back. Okay. Kamara is
they're going to run the Wildcat all night long, all day long.
I would love to see the Saints take a page out of the Giants, out of the Patriots playbook, and Taysom Hill throw it less than 10 times. Just run packages, options, Wildcat, halfback passes, whatever. Just throw it.
If you can win they ought to try to see if they can win without throwing a pass, not one.
That said, if you're going to play conservative, +5 might not be bad. All right, we'll talk more about NFL, and we'll have our predictions on the games. Joel Davis, who's been red hot on the radio, on Sports Shorts Radio, is 4-0 in his last 4 weeks, picking one game.
Oh yeah, he's reminding me every day.
So he'll have your picks on Saturday morning, but Tommy and I have our picks tomorrow on Sports Shorts presented by LeBear's Casino. TK, tell us about Court Street Cafe.
Hey, Court Street Cafe steak night tonight. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week. I've had breakfast, lunch, dinner. Connect on Facebook and Instagram, Court Street Cafe. Lunch specials, dinner specials. We'll get you some info about what they got going on in the holidays as well. Court Street Cafe, just 2 minutes the other side of the bridge on Court Street in Port Allen. You need to check them out. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days a week.
He's Tommy. I'm Ronnie. We'll see you tomorrow morning for more Sports Shorts Dailies. Have a